So what are protein and classification of protein? Next we have structure of protein. The questions based on structure of protein is important. Next is enzymes. Okay, let's study first what is protein. Tell me, what are the protein? Protein is a polymer, a long chain polymer of alpha amino acid. So therefore a long chain polymer of alpha amino acid is called protein. So therefore protein is made up of which amino acids? Alpha amino acid. Therefore alpha amino acids are called building blocks of protein. So there are many alpha amino acids are joined together, they form the long chain polymer. Okay. Next is classification of protein. There is a two classification. One, classification based on structure. Classification based on structure. So based on structure, proteins are classified into two types. One, globular protein. Two, fibrous protein. So there are two types of protein, globular and fibrous protein. Tell me, first one is globular protein. So these are the proteins they are having coil or spherical like structure. So these are the proteins having coil and spherical like structure, and they are soluble in water, and these proteins are soluble in water. Then what about fibrous protein? So here in case of fibrous protein, these are the proteins having fiber like structure. So these proteins having fiber like structure, and they contain long chain polypeptides, and these polypeptides are joined together by hydrogen bondings or disulfide bonds like this. So therefore these are the proteins having fiber like structure, and here polypeptide, this is a polypeptide, it is one more polypeptide. So these polypeptide chains they contain polypeptide chains. These polypeptide chains are held together by either hydrogen bonding or hydrogen bonding and disulfide bonds. And what about solubility? So spherical, these are having spherical structure and they are soluble in water, whereas fibrous protein they are not soluble in water, or insoluble in water. Then example. So what are the example for globular protein? So globular protein usually soluble in water. So they are actually, yes, they are soluble in water. Example, you can take, it is a albumin, egg albumin, and what is a globulin, insulin. Insulin is protein or hormone? It is a hormone but having protein, right? So it is a hormone having peptide bonds, peptide hormone. Therefore globulin and insulin are example for globular proteins. They are soluble in water and they are having coil like structure, spherical like structure. Next is fibrous protein. They are having fiber like structure, fibers like structure. Of course, they are having long polypeptide chains. These polypeptide chains are held together by it is hydrogen bonding and disulfide bonding. They are insoluble in water. Okay, can you tell me example for this? So what are the example for fiber protein? What is a protein? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, collagen. Collagen protein, it's which protein? What is a muscle protein? Myosin. Myosin, right? Muscle protein is myosin. Correct on? So which is insoluble in water. It has fiber like structure. No, non-vegetarian gottagutte. Non-vegetarians ge they know what is myosin. Okay, so that is a fiber protein. It is insoluble. And even keratin, hair protein, nail protein. No. Keratin, hair protein, nail protein are example for this. So they are insoluble in water. Is it keratin soluble in water? If it is soluble in water, then what about once you have head bath, you should forget about your hairs, right? That is not possible. So they are insoluble. It is based on structure. Next, another classification is classification based on chemical composition. Classification based on chemical composition. It is again classified into two types: simple protein, conjugated proteins. Simple proteins, conjugated proteins. Okay, tell me. So what are the simple and what are conjugated proteins? Simple protein is the protein which contain only alpha amino acid. Usually protein made up of alpha amino acid, but the protein which contain only alpha amino acid are simple. Then what about conjugated? But some of the protein contain alpha amino acids. Along with alpha amino acid, there is a non-protein part which is called a prosthetic group or cofactor. So therefore, the protein which contain alpha amino acid and non-protein part, non-protein part, which is called prosthetic group or cofactor, then they are called what? Conjugated protein. So therefore, simple proteins contain only amino acids. That means simple protein undergo hydrolysis, they gives only alpha amino acid. Conjugated protein undergo hydrolysis, they gives alpha amino acid as well as non-protein part, which is called prosthetic group. Then example. So what are the example for simple and conjugated protein? So simple protein you can take albumin, egg albumin, which contain only alpha amino acids. Then conjugated proteins, casein. You know casein is a milk protein. Tell me, it is on hydrolysis gives alpha amino acid plus phosphoric acid. So therefore, casein is a phosphoprotein which has protein plus and phosphoric acid. Therefore, casein is an example for conjugated protein. And moreover, you might have studied in your biology nucleoproteins, glycoproteins, phosphoproteins, lipoproteins. Yes or no? In glycoproteins, tell me, what is the prosthetic group? There is a which has amino acid plus and glucose. that is a glycoprotein. Nucleoproteins, protein plus nucleic acid. Nucleoproteins, which gives amino acid plus nucleic acid. Next, okay, the next is lipoproteins, which has lipids. Okay, so all these are example for conjugated proteins. Next, right, structure of protein. Structure of protein. UPS off ಮಾಡಿ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿರಿ. UPS off. You don't know. Okay, write down structure of protein. Right, so protein, the structure of protein is divided into or classified into 4 types. Our protein has 4 type of structure. 1 primary structure, 2 secondary, 3 tertiary, and 4th one is quaternary structure. So therefore, the structure of protein classified into 4 types. 1 primary structure, primary structure. Now here in each structure, important is what does primary structure explains or what does it describes and importance. So 2 things are important. 1, primary structure describes what and its importance. It means which kind of bonds will be there. Okay, next secondary structure. What does secondary structure describes and again what kind of bonds. So only 2-3 important points we need to remember. Let's see, first one is primary structure. So remember, this primary structure describes the number of amino acid. It describes number of amino acid and the sequence of amino acid, because every protein is made up of what? Amino acids, right? Protein has amino acid. In particular protein, so there is a particular sequence, because for example, let us take protein like casein. In the protein casein, there is a sequence like A, B, C, D. So these are the amino acid. If there is a one amino acid is missing here, so it changes protein only. That means every particular protein has particular sequence of amino acid. So therefore, so this primary structure describes the number of amino acids. There are how many number of amino acid in given in a protein, and it also describes the what? It describes what? And number of amino acid and its formation of peptide bond. So what peptide bond is formed between 2 amino acids. So therefore, it describes the number of amino acid, comma, sequence of amino acid and formation of peptide bond. Okay, therefore primary structure describes these 3 important points. 1, it is a number of amino acid. That means peptide chain has how many amino acid? 2. What is the sequence of amino acid? 3. Formation of peptide bond. Okay, next, secondary structure. Secondary structure. So what does secondary structure describes? Secondary structure describes the folding pattern, because in primary structure we have studied there is a peptide bond between A, B and C, D, E. So there is a peptide bond, right? Is it all this peptide chain is present as a linear long chain? No. So this is a peptide chain. It is exists in the form of folding. It may be folded right hand side, it may be folded left hand side, right? So therefore there is a folding is present in the polypeptide chain. That folding pattern can be explained by secondary structure. Therefore secondary structure of protein describes the folding pattern. What kind of folding present in secondary structure, that is we explain here. Then now based on folding pattern, again secondary structure classified into 2 types. There are 2 types of secondary structure is generally observed in proteins. That is one alpha helix, second one is beta pleated sheet. So therefore secondary structure, it describes the folding pattern of polypeptide chain. Right. So therefore based on folding pattern, again secondary structure classified into 2 types. One alpha helix, B beta pleated sheet. It's pleated only, not plated. Sir, and tabbar ನೀವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಗಬೇಡಿ, ಭಾಳ ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತರು. Right, so it is a beta pleated sheet. Then now what is the alpha helix structure? See, in alpha helix structure, so this polypeptide chain exists, or it is formed by it is folding of this polypeptide chain in right-handed helical structure like this. Right? It is right-handed, no? How? Like this. It is folded in a right-handed helical structure. Right? So due to folding, this right-handed helical structure, there is a hydrogen bond present between carbonyl group of one amino acid and amine group of third amino acid. There is a hydrogen bond is present. Like it is a first amino acid, this is a third amino acid. It means every 1 and 3rd amino acid there is a hydrogen bonding is present. That too carbonyl group, amine group. Like for example here, if you take carbonyl group of one amino acid, so here you will get amine group of third amino acid. So therefore due to this hydrogen bonding, it become helical and it has spherical like structure. Okay, it is in alpha helix structure. Next, in beta pleated, in case of beta pleated sheet, this is formed by the not folding, it is a polypeptide chain runs parallelly. It is one polypeptide chain, there is another polypeptide chain, they run parallelly. In between these 2 polypeptide chain, there is a hydrogen bonding. How? Again it is same. There is a carbonyl group. For example, if it is a carbonyl group, here amine comes, amine group, then R comes, then carbonyl, amine and R group will be there in a continuous position. Then if there is a carbonyl group, here there may be a amine group. Okay, so here is amine carbonyl R, again amine carbonyl, here is R. Now tell me, this is a one polypeptide, it is another polypeptide. In between these 2 polypeptide chains, there is a hydrogen bonding is present. carbonyl group of one polypeptide, amine group of another polypeptide. So there is a hydrogen bonding is present. Due to this hydrogen bonding, so it becomes a sheet. It comes like sheet-like structure, and there is a even another polypeptide also possible. Okay, let us take it is amine group, carbonyl group, it is R group. Again it is R, carbonyl, amine. Okay, again R, amine, carbonyl. So like that, so there are many polypeptide chains, they held together by hydrogen bonding. So due to now due to this hydrogen bonding, so it become like sheet-like structure. Okay, so the best example for beta pleated sheet is silk protein. So silk protein has beta pleated sheet, and alpha helic. The example for alpha helic is keratin, or even keratin, nail protein, hair protein. It has alpha helix structure. Okay, it is a secondary structure of protein. Next is tertiary structure. Tertiary structure of protein. Okay, so what does tertiary structure describes? So this tertiary structure describes the three-dimensional arrangement of polypeptide chain. Now here we have studied, no, this is 2D structure, not 3D. It is a single polypeptide chain. This single polypeptide chain is, it is how it is folding. It is explained by secondary. Now these are the 3 polypeptide chains. These polypeptide chains, they held together, they form the sheet-like structure. Okay, it is about secondary. Then what about tertiary? Tertiary structure explains the three-dimensional arrangement. If you take, it is a one protein. This protein has 3D structure, right? So the 3D structure of protein or polypeptide chain explained by tertiary structure. Therefore, it describes the three-dimensional structure of polypeptide chain. Polypeptide chain. Next is fourth one, quaternary structure. Quaternary structure. Okay, so what does quaternary structure describes? Okay, see, now so far we have studied, this is one polypeptide chain, this is one other polypeptide chain. It is like one protein, right? Like similarly, usually a protein is made up of more than one polypeptide chain. For example, insulin. Insulin contain how many polypeptide? 2 na 3 na? Insulin. 2 only, I think. Okay, I don't know. There are 2 polypeptide chain, right? Insulin. So insulin has 2 polypeptide chain. Like that, a protein is made up of 2 or more polypeptide chains. When there are two or more polypeptide chain, each polypeptide chain is called one unit. Okay, that is called one unit. So therefore, now what does quaternary structure describes? This quaternary structure describes it is the arrangement of units. That means these polypeptide chains with respect to each other. It means protein has more than one polypeptide. Okay, so if there are more than one polypeptide, so how they are arranged with respect to each other, that is explained by quaternary structure. Therefore, this quaternary structure describes the arrangement of polypeptide chains, nothing but subunits, polypeptide chains with respect to each other. So therefore, quaternary structure describes the arrangement of polypeptide chain. So each polypeptide chain is called subunit. With respect to each other. So that is a quaternary structure. Okay. Then I repeat once again, listen carefully. Structure of protein. In structure of protein, we need to remember only 1-2 important points. Like in primary structure, what does it describes primary structure? Secondary, even tertiary, quaternary. So therefore, protein has 4 structures: primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure. First one, primary structure. So primary structure describes the number of amino acids. It means a given polypeptide has how many amino acids and what is the sequence, right? Because a particular protein has particular sequence. No, the sequence in casein different, the sequence of amino acid in insulin is different. So therefore, so primary structure describes the what is the sequence of amino acid, and of course if you know the number of amino acid and sequence, nothing but it describes what? The peptide bond. That means, so peptide is bond formed between which amino acid? Like amino acid glycine is there, after glycine cysteine is there. In between these two there is a peptide bond. Therefore, that peptide bond is explained by what? Primary structure. Okay, the formation of peptide bond is explained by only primary structure. Next is secondary structure. Secondary structure describes the folding pattern. Okay, so how the polypeptide chain is folding? So it explains about a folding pattern of the polypeptide chain. Then based on folding pattern, again polypeptide chains are secondary structure classified into 2 types: alpha helix and beta pleated sheet. So what happened in alpha helix? In alpha helix, the polypeptide chain has right-handed helical structure. It has a right-handed helical structure and which is stabilized by the hydrogen bonding. So therefore, this alpha right-handed helical structure is stabilized by hydrogen bonding. Where the hydrogen bond is present? Hydrogen bond present between amino group and carbonyl group. So first carbonyl group of first amino acid and amino group of third amino acid. That means hydrogen bond present between first and third amino acid. Okay, carbonyl group and amine group. Okay, in case of beta pleated sheet, so there are many polypeptide chains. Okay, these polypeptide chains runs parallelly. They run parallelly, and in between these two polypeptide chain there is a hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding present between again carbonyl group, it is a amine group, carbonyl amine or amine carbonyl group. So therefore, so due to formation of this kind of hydrogen bonding, it looks like one sheet, and moreover these sheets they slide over one another. The best example, silk fluorine. No, silk can slide over. It has sheet like structure and it can be slide over each other. So that means this is possible with beta pleated sheet. Next is quaternary structure. So this quaternary structure describes the 3D structure of polypeptide chain, and most important is now it is stabilized by which bonds? That is important. It was previous question. Tertiary structure is stabilized by which bond? It is stabilized by 1 hydrogen bond. That means there is hydrogen bond. 2, it is stabilized by disulfide bond. There are disulfide bonds, and it is also stabilized by van der Waals bond. Means van der Waals bonds also present in tertiary structure. It is also stabilized by even electrostatic bond, that is ionic bond. Electrostatic bond. It means there are 4 kind of bonds present in tertiary structure: hydrogen bond, disulfide bond, van der Waals bond, electrostatic bond. There was previous question. Which of the following bonds stabilize the secondary and tertiary structure, they asked. So therefore, in secondary structure, even secondary structure also these bonds are also present in second structure. Even though we have written hydrogen bond stabilized, but those bonds also present, right? Therefore, both secondary and tertiary structure stabilized by these 4 bonds. Okay. Next is quaternary structure. So quaternary structure explains the, or it explains about the arrangement of subunits. That means if the protein has more than one polypeptide chain, each polypeptide chain is called one unit. Like for example, this is a one polypeptide, it is one unit, right? There is another polypeptide, it is one unit. Like another polypeptide chain, it is also another unit. So these are all subunits. Okay, then what does quaternary explains? It explains the arrangement of these subunits with respect to each other. The arrangement also there is particular. It's not that so this this polypeptide chain has some kind of arrangement. So ataralla there is a arrangement also, particular specific arrangement will be there for each protein. So that's what. So it describes about what? Arrangement of the polypeptide chain with respect to each other. So how these polypeptide chains are arranged with respect to each other. So that is explained by quaternary structure. Okay. So this is the structure of protein. Okay. So next is denaturation of protein. Denaturation of protein. So what is denaturation? Tell me. When proteins are subjected to heat or subjected to acid or alkali or enzymes, so proteins undergo denaturation. It means the physical and biological activity of protein is changes. So this change in physical as well as biological activity of protein by the action of acid, base, heating, alkali, enzymes, microorganisms is called what? Denaturation. So therefore in denaturation, the process of change in physical and biological activity of protein. The process of change in physical and biological activity of protein by the action of usually heat or acid or even alkali, by the action of alkali or enzymes, etc., called denaturation of protein. So therefore it is the process of change in the physical and biological activity of protein by the action of heat. It means when proteins are heated, they undergo denaturation. So denaturation nothing but they undergo change in physical as well as biological activity. The physical state changes as well as biological activity also changes. It is by action of heat, it is by even action of acid, even by action of alkali as well as enzymes, etc. So this phenomena is called denaturation of protein. Okay. Now what is the importance of denaturation? One, tell me, in the denaturation of protein, it was previous question, which of the following structure changes? One, it changes physical state, it changes even biological activity. It also changes structure. Which structure? Primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, or all? So in denaturation, except primary structure, all the structure changes, but not primary structure. Why? If there is a change in primary structure, what happened? So the complete protein, protein under what is that? breaking, no, protein changes. So the change in primary structure nothing but peptide bond. When peptide bond is broken, the whole protein changes. Protein converted into amino acids. So therefore, except primary structure, all the secondary, tertiary, quaternary structure may change, may not change, but not primary structure. Next, second importance. In denaturation of protein, it loses biological activity. Yes or no? Denaturated protein loses biological activity. Yes or no? Yes. Can you tell me example for denaturation? Example for denaturation. Curdling of milk. Right? Curdling of milk, no. So milk, when you add a small amount of curd to milk, so that the whole milk get converted into curd. It is a by action of enzymes, and that is what? Bacteria. Lactic acid. It means it is nothing but by the action of acid only. Next, even when egg is boiled, okay, so egg has egg albumin, globulin, which get converts into coagulation or not? It get coagulated. That is nothing but coagulation of egg is nothing but it is a denaturation. Okay, therefore denaturated protein loses its biological activity. Yes or no? So egg has biological activity. Egg can be developed as a chick. Barutala. Once it is boiled, can you get chick? Omelette agutte. Isn't it? So that means once egg is boiled, it cannot be can be developed as a chick. Not possible. It loses its biological activity. So therefore, so usually denaturated protein loses biological activity. Next, then denaturation of protein, whether reversible or irreversible. Say majority cases it is irreversible, but only few cases, particularly in DNA. In case of DNA, it is reversible, right? So DNA undergo denaturation, again it convert into original state, that is called renaturation. Therefore, denaturation, renaturation is possible for DNA, but not possible for any other proteins. Therefore, in all the cases, denaturation is irreversible, because once the egg is boiled, it cannot convert into again later it is chick. Not possible now. Convert milk into curd. Can you convert curd into again milk? ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Milk, when milk converts into curd, you will get buttermilk, not milk, right? So that means it is irreversible, but in case of nucleic acid or that is DNA, it is reversible. So these are the important characteristics of denaturation. 1, it loses biological activity. So protein loses biological activity due to denaturation. Next, 2, of course physical also. Second, it may or may not reversible. It is may or may not. Reversible. Next. Yes, this is important. So denaturation of protein does not lose primary structure. It may lose secondary, tertiary. It do not lose primary structure, but secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure may or may not change. Example, curdling of milk is a denaturation. Next, boiling egg also denaturation. Okay, so it is about proteins. Next is enzymes. Tell me. So what are enzymes and their important characteristics? So enzyme is, it is a biochemical catalyst, no? It is a catalyst, of course, but which catalyst? Biochemical. It means enzyme is a catalyst which is act as a catalyst in biochemical reaction. So what are the biochemical reaction? The reaction which takes place in living organisms. Yes or no? The chemical reactions which takes place in living organisms called biochemical reactions. Therefore, in biochemical reactions, enzymes act as a catalyst. Therefore, a biochemical catalyst, is called enzyme. Next point. But we know that all the enzymes are made up of protein. Is there any enzyme which is not having protein structure? Some 1-2 enzymes are there. Ribozyme, which is having, tell me, RNA. Okay, very few, but majority enzymes is made up of protein. So therefore, you can take all enzymes are proteins, but all proteins are not enzymes. All enzymes are proteins usually, but all proteins are not enzymes. Okay, next. So what are the important characteristics and example? Let's see first characteristics of enzymes. 1. Tell me. So 1, we know that enzymes are highly specific. Yes or no? These are highly specific. Means what? They are highly specific in their nature, in their work. It means one enzyme can convert one reactant to product. It means one particular enzyme can work in particular reaction only. For example, urease. Urease is an enzyme which can convert urea into carbon dioxide, ammonia. Urea into ammonia and carbon dioxide, that is urease. Can urease convert in any other reaction? No. It is unlike catalyst. But catalysts are not highly specific. They are specific only, but not highly specific. For example, nickel catalyst. Okay, nickel catalyst can convert alkene into alkane, even alkyne to alkane, even aldehyde to alcohol, isn't it? Even ketone to alcohol. Reduction, no. Nickel hydrogenation. We use in hydrogenation, we use in reduction, right? Not only in one particular reaction, we can use in many more reaction. It means catalyst is not a highly specific. There are of course some extent specific, because all the catalysts cannot work in all the reaction, or one catalyst cannot work in all the reaction. That is a specific. But enzymes are not that. Enzymes are highly specific. One particular reaction, one particular enzyme will be there, right? For example, invertase. We have studied. Invertase is the enzyme which can convert sucrose into glucose and fructose. Can any other enzyme can do this reaction? No. Only in invertase. Invertase can only convert sucrose into glucose and fructose. That means this shows that all enzymes are highly specific. They can work in particular reaction only. Okay. Next, enzymes are highly specific, and enzymes now, For the biochemical reactions, enzymes require very small quantity, not very small, very, very small quantity. Yes or no? They are unlike catalyst. Even catalyst we take 1 gram, 2 gram catalyst. But can you take enzymes are 1 gram, 2 gram? No. It's in micrograms. That means a very small quantity of enzyme is enough to catalyze the reaction. So therefore, second important characteristic is they require very small quantity in biochemical reactions. Enzymes require very small quantity in biochemical reactions. Next, third characteristic. Third characteristic is it is similar to catalyst. In catalyst we studied a catalyst do not alter the position of equilibrium, but it brings the equilibrium quickly, fastly. Yes or no? A catalyst do not alter the position of equilibrium. So due to catalyst, the position of the equilibrium do not change. But it brings or attains the equilibrium quickly. Now same you can apply here also. A enzyme do not alter the position of equilibrium. The position of equilibrium do not change because of enzyme. But what it can do? It can brings the equilibrium quickly by reducing the activation energy. Right? The activation energy of the reaction is reduces by the enzyme or it is by the catalyst also. So therefore, this point can be applied to same, but both for catalyst and enzyme. Therefore, enzyme it do not alter the position of equilibrium it do not alter the position of equilibrium, but it brings equilibrium quickly. By lowering activation energy. So by reducing activation energy, by lowering activation energy, it brings the equilibrium quickly. Tell me. Negative catalyst, no, that is catalyst. In case of enzyme negative catalyst not there, inhibitors are there. Enzyme inhibitors are there, that we don't study. In generally we study about positive only. Okay. Next. Okay. Next characteristic is say about temperature. Generally, all the enzymes are active at 37 degrees Celsius. That is our body temperature, and they become inactive when temperature is more than 60 degrees. So when the temperature increases more than 60 degrees, they become inactive. Even enzyme become inactive in presence of electrolytes like sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, or any salt. In presence of electrolyte, they become inactive, and a temperature above 60 degrees is inactive. Therefore, enzymes are active at 37 degrees Celsius and they become inactive above 60 degrees Celsius and in presence of electrolytes. Okay, then the activity of enzyme also decreases. It is also depends on pH also. The activity of enzyme also depends on pH. So at what pH they become active? They become active at pH is 5 to 6. Right. So they become active at 5 to 6 pH. And enzymes activity increases in presence of what? No, decreases. The activity of enzyme decreases in presence of enzyme inhibitors. Yes or no? Enzyme inhibitor. So therefore, enzyme inhibitors, they decreases the activity of enzymes, right? And enzyme also, enzyme is made up of protein, but enzyme is made up of protein. It is having only protein or other than protein part? It is having even other than protein part, which is called prosthetic group. We have studied now conjugated protein. So therefore, enzymes are generally conjugated proteins. They contain protein as well as non-protein part, usually metal ions. So majority enzymes containing metal ions. Therefore, enzymes contain protein plus non-protein part, which is called prosthetic group. So this prosthetic group usually metal ions. It may be magnesium, zinc, manganese, nickel, iron, cobalt, etc. These are all the non-protein part, that is metal ions. Next is, what are the important examples of enzymes? Do you know the name of the enzyme ends with ase? Okay. Examples. Okay, we have studied sucrose now. Tell me. Sucrose converts into glucose plus fructose. What is the enzyme? It is invertase. Invertase. Then glucose gives, it is alcohol, ethyl alcohol plus carbon dioxide. So what is the enzyme? Zymase. Fermentation, no? Zymase. Next, urea undergo decomposition, it gives 2 moles of ammonia plus carbon dioxide, CO2. It is urease. Starch gives glucose. What is enzyme? Amylase, right? Amylase. Yes or no? Next, yeah, if it is a maltose, tell me, maltose converts into glucose, maltase. Lactose converts into glucose plus galactose, lactase, right? Proteins converts into amino acid. Huh? Protease. Huh? There is a enzyme called pepsin. It's all comes under that one. Pepsin, trypsin, no? Pepsin. Even nucleic acid converts into nucleotide, right? Nucleotide. What is the enzyme? Nucleases. Okay. Even lipids converts into fatty acid plus glycerol, lipases. Okay, many more. So all these are example for enzymes. Okay. Next is vitamins. What is a vitamins or vitamins? Vitamins correct, no? Vitamin. Every same, huh? Okay. So usually it is called vitamins in north side. In South India it is vitamin only. I think in 2010 I went to Nagpur for class only. During class I told, I think, joules. So energy units is joules, no? We called joules. They started laughing. I thought, I said, what is wrong? They did not tell. Later they told, it is not joules, it is joule. I laughed. This is not joule, it is joules only. Huh? Like that, there is a changes. Usually, this side, you people say chamber, no? But actually it is called chamber. Chamber, like that, some changes will be there. Okay. Right, it is also vitamins or vitamins, you can take anything. Okay. So vitamins, tell me, what is the vitamin? So vitamins are the biomolecule, right? Like proteins, like carbohydrate, these are the biomolecule. The biomolecule which is required very small quantity for the growth and maintenance of the body, living organisms, right? So therefore, the biomolecule which requires very small quantity to maintain the health and growth of the human beings, particularly we study human beings, so which is called what? Vitamins. Therefore, so vitamins are, they neither gives energy, right? They do not give any energy, and they neither used for the building of the tissues or cells. Yes or no? But the deficiency of vitamin causes disease. Okay. So then what is the important of these vitamins? The important is they used in the maintenance of health. Okay, and of course growth of the even cells and tissues also. Okay, organisms. Then next, vitamins are classified into two types. Usually there are two types of vitamins. Tell me. One, water soluble. Water soluble vitamins, and second one is fat soluble vitamins. Okay, so water soluble, fat soluble. Tell me, water soluble, the vitamins which are soluble in water soluble, and the vitamins which are soluble in oil or fat soluble. But important is which vitamins are soluble in water. So usually B complex, except what? B12. Except B12. So all the B complex vitamins are soluble in water. Okay. Now since these B and C soluble in water, so they can be excreted easily through the urine, and they have to supply it through diet in regularly. And if not, what happen? It leads to cause disease. Therefore, vitamin B and vitamin C, means B complex and vitamin C, has to take regularly in diet, because they cannot be stored in the body. Next, what about fat soluble? The vitamins which are soluble in oil or fat, called fat soluble. So the remaining vitamins, what are those? A, D, E, K. So A, D, E, K, these four vitamins are soluble in oil. So therefore, since they are soluble oil or fat, they are stored in the adipose tissues. Right? They are stored in adipose tissues wherever required, whenever required, body required. So they can be supplied from the adipose tissues. So therefore, these vitamins cannot be excreted through the urine, and need not to be taken every day. Okay. So that is the difference. Next is here important is in textbook given tabular column. Okay, what are the vitamins, their chemical names, and their source where they occur, and one more column is their deficiency. Okay, so that tabular column you need to by heart it. So what is the time left? Time is over now. Okay, if you have books, just open it. Not there? Books illa? Okay, we shall continue next class.